I got a call from Stallone, who was doing Bullet to the Head. I got a call from the production office to train the cast for G.I. Joe. Zac was coming back in to do Paperboy. James Marsden was coming into town to do a movie. All of a sudden, everything hit me at one time. Fitness is the ultimate equalizer in life. I see all these executive level business owners, CEOs, who are massively successful in every area of their life, except for one thing, and that's their health and fitness. So my message is helping them learn how to adopt new lifestyle habits in there, and just to show them that it's not as hard as you think.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Table Talk. Today I got Aaron Williamson and Matt Whittemer. Do I say that right?
Yeah, Whittemer.
I've been knowing you fucking forever, and I always screw up your last name, and I just cursed in the first 15 seconds. So that's not good. Anyhow, I got a lot of things that I want to kind of go over. Aaron is, I'm just going straight from your website because there's a lot of history to be able to talk with. Marine actor, stunt performer, transformation specialist, and speaker. First question I have to jump off with, I had to write it down because I went, this is a good one. You went from carrying caskets of fallen heroes to training Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but before that, you were sleeping in your car, battling PTSD and trying to survive. What was the moment that you decided the gym wasn't just a place to train?
It's been an evolution, right? So even overseas in Iraq, I had to dig into my faith, but at the same time, I needed my sanity. I need something to keep me grounded. And that's where the gym came into play for me. I fell in love with fitness in '98 when I was my first pump to Okinawa, Japan. Fell in love with fitness. That's where I, got into the bodybuilding, the muscle tech, all the old school stuff. And it was just one evolution after another. But when I got back from Iraq, I moved to New Orleans to do some contract work with the Marine Corps. And I lost everything I had. It didn't go as planned. I couldn't find work. And I submitted. Like I couldn't survive the way I was going. So I had to file for bankruptcy. I was living in my car. And I just remember thinking to myself, how can I go from doing all these amazing things in the Marine Corps to all of a sudden here I am now living in this piece of shit Toyota Corolla with no one and nothing. So I said I was either going to kill myself or I'm going to dig into my fitness. Fitness has been personal to me. It's something I never wanted to share with anybody. But out of desperation, I decided I had to do it. And I got certified as a personal trainer. There was a local bodybuilding show, the New Orleans regional show. I said I was going to win the Mr. New Orleans title, start promoting health and fitness around the city, and just like recreate myself. And that's what I did. So that at that time is when I had to really dig into my fitness, and it really kept me from ending my life.
Now, before that, you were a body bearer, right? Mm-hmm. I've had Dan Grigsby on, which I think he did that for 12 years or something like that. Fitness is obviously part of that. What do they call role in the military?
Yeah.
Because the standards are ridiculous. I mean, some of the things that he was telling me that you had to do just to be one of the 15 that are able to do that is insane. So fitness, you see, have a disconnect. Like, how can fitness not be a thing for you at that point unless you're just a freak and are able to be able to hold caskets at eye level, without any, because you had to be training then, right?
Oh yeah. So when I was actually in Okinawa, Japan, I was talking to my company first sergeant, and he was telling me about the body bearer section. I had no idea what it was. So he actually had reached out to the section in DC and told them about me. So when I got back from that deployment, the body bearers came down to Camp Lejeune. I was with 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. They came down to screen me, and I failed the strength test. So I thought it was over. I was going to move on. I was getting ready for squad leader school. And then a couple weeks later, the career planner called me in and said, "Hey, when do you want to take leave?" And I was so confused. I had no idea what he was talking about. He's like, "You got orders to the body bearer section." So it's not only strength. You can always get stronger, but the checklist is, your moral character, how responsible are you, integrity, all those things. So when I got out of, or when I graduated boot camp, I was 160 pounds. When I got back from Okinawa, I was about 180. And then when I went to the bodybuilder section, I was doing everything I could to at least try and put some size on because I knew they were big. So I got up to like 190. I got to the section, and the average weight of the bodybuilder was like 230. So I remember my first strength test with the section. I'm in green on green. You've got to earn the gear. It's a rite of passage. You know, it's like another boot camp. So I remember going into the gym doing a strength test, and one of the bodybuilders had a box of toothpicks, and he threw it at me. Told me to go find my legs. So that's when I just became massively obsessed with training. And it was, you know, I was doing the bodybuilding thing for a while, but when I got to the bodybuilder section, I knew I needed to get strong. And that's when we just started, you know, getting into all the basic lifts. So the strength tests, you know, bench press, shoulder press, squat, barbell curl, all the main lifts that everyone probably should start off doing. So I got strong as hell. I put on like 70 pounds. I had 2 alarms set in the middle of the night. I was getting up my first time to drink one of the old school Twin Lab 2,500 calorie, you know, Gainers fuel shakes. And then my second alarm, I'd get up and eat a light meal. So I was eating around the clock, and I put on about 70 pounds.
And how long?
This was within about a year and a half.
And you had to maintain your, what did they test you in a mile or something?
Yeah, so the PFT is a 3 mile run, 20 pull-ups, and 100 crunches at the time. You know, the 3 mile run, 18 minutes if you're trying to execute perfection.
Yeah.
So we had waivers a lot for what we were because we were so big. You know, we had waivers for food. We had waivers for our dress blues. We had elastic put in them. So we were kind of a different breed. Like no one really messed with us. It was a different Marine Corps when I was in, though, so I don't know how it is now.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because I remember what Dan was telling me, and it was just like insane. Because what you just mentioned would be like a regular person having to hit the same time in a year period of time, but do it with a 70-pound ruck.
Yeah,
because you put 70 more pounds on.
Yep.
During that time, and maintain the pull-up and everything else while you're doing that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is with the bodybuilder section in the Marine Corps, we carry 6 men on a casket versus the other services who carry 8. Not only that, but when we get to the hole, we actually raise the casket above the hole as a final salute. So you got to be strong, because you don't know what like how heavy that casket's going to be when you get to the cemetery. You show up, they open the door, they pull it out, and you guys got to be ready for it. So we train hard and heavy, always.
Did you ever have one that was real heavy, like heavier than what you would expect?
Yes.
Because most people, when they pass, they're going to kind of be close to the same. Yeah. Especially if it's from age. But if they pass younger, you get somebody in there that's like 300 pounds.
Well, so you have like a standard funeral.
Yeah.
You have a full honors funeral. So a standard funeral is, you know, you've got the bodybuilder detail, you've got the firing squad, you got the family. So it's a smaller service. And I remember on that service being a standard funeral, you know, I would occasionally bring out my new guys who were maybe in ceremonial drill school. They call it CDS. And you hope that you train them good enough to be ready for whatever situation you're going to encounter, because you never know what it is. And I remember we were standing at parade rest as the hearse went by, and the ass end of the hearse was just dragging. And I was like, that's not a good sign. So I see 2 casualty reps go up. It's usually just one. They open the door, and I see them both pulling the casket out at the same time. And then he comes up to me and whispers in my ear, he says, "This is one of the heavier caskets we've ever had." And I'm just thinking to myself, great. I got my brand new guy across from me who this is his first funeral out at Arlington. So the guy's overweight. The Marine who passed was overweight. And the casket, the bottom of it was reinforced marble. So I remember pulling it out. You know, you lock your arms in, and I'm looking him in his eye like, just dude, if you do something, I'm going to kill you. And I could see the fear in his eyes. And then he started pulling it towards him, which is pulling it away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I had this pop in my neck, and the right side of my face went numb. My right arm went numb. It was the heaviest casket I've carried my whole time at the body bearer section. We got to the hole. We didn't even raise it. It was just a task to get to the hole. But after we got there, that Marine was gone when we got back, because that's a liability. Like,
yeah,
you're going to get someone hurt. And it's why we go back to the standard of, you've got to be a certain size, and you've got to be able to maintain a certain strength. You know, as the different leadership come and go, the body bearers always stay the same. And the company or the leadership sometimes doesn't understand that. So that's why there's a lot of fluctuation in the body bearer section sometimes, because you get leadership who supports it, and you get leadership who doesn't. And when the leadership doesn't, and they force you to take these small guys who have no business being a body bearer, that's the kind of stuff that happens.
Meanwhile, this whole time you have to maintain composure. So you blast your neck apart, but you can't let anybody know.
No one knew. No one knew. Yep. Yeah, and I say the body bearer duty out of my entire career, you know, even did personal security with General Pace, whatever I did, I say it was my most humble duty, because when you lay someone to rest, that's the last image a family's going to have of their loved one. So I just expected perfection, because I ended up becoming the section leader. And perfection is what we always strived for.
Then how do you instill that into the younger ones that are coming in? Because obviously you have the one like you have, and they're just out. But then somebody else is going to come in, but then you have to train them up to that same standard.
The drill school is probably one of the more intense trainings from a strength perspective, because when you're in ceremonial drill school, you get up in the morning, you drill, then you weight train, and then you come back in the afternoon and you drill more. So you're just literally lifting all day. We probably could have done things a lot smarter back then, but I think really what it comes down to is, do you have what it takes? Are you willing to push yourself to the absolute limit? And I can tell when someone is about to break, meaning physically, like they need some type of rest. And knowing that, that's when I can adjust the training. But if I don't see you getting to that point, I'm just going to keep riding you and riding you and riding you until you either give up or you take it to the next level.
Why the Marines?
For me?
Yeah.
So when I had a bad childhood, meaning I was always in trouble. I didn't have any responsibility. Like, I didn't respect authority. I thought I knew everything. I did what I wanted to do. I got in trouble. I almost died in 7th grade from a drug overdose. I was just not a great kid.
From what time period did that begin?
6th grade into 7th grade. And I just remember there was I played sports later in high school. I say starting my second freshman year. And there was a linebacker on the varsity football team. He looked like Goldberg from WWE, big trap, shaved head. Like, you didn't want to get in front of him because he would take your head off. And when he graduated high school, he joined the Marine Corps. Meanwhile, I had no direction. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was actually thinking about, like, I got to start thinking about where my life is going now, because I pissed away all these opportunities. I'm going to be an adult here soon, and I have nothing lined up. So when he came back from Marine Corps boot camp, I was speechless on the person who I saw. He lost a bunch of weight. He looked streamlined. He spoke differently. He stood taller. Everything about him was different. He didn't, normally he was a shit talker, but he really didn't say much when he came back. And I was like, something about that is what I needed. And so I started looking into the Marine Corps, and what intrigued me was Marine Corps Force Reconnaissance. The Marine Corps, the SEAL equivalent for the Marine Corps. So going into the Marine Corps, that's what I wanted to do, although it didn't pan out that way. And, I say it's God's plan, and it just led me down the new path. But that's really what it came down to, is seeing this transformation from a person who was just this hardcore meathead.
What was the catalyst before that? Because, I mean, you said you almost died of an overdose. So you're caught up with those people, that crowd, for several years, right? So not very many people are able to break out of that. You know, so, and this is a person that came back, so that they were gone for a while. So when you say that you were looking for some kind of vision, which is kind of hard to do if you're fucked up and stoned and using drugs all the time, what was the catalyst to do that? You know, was it the actual overdose or was it before that?
Well, it's kind of a series of events. So I overdosed in 7th grade, almost died, cocaine and speed. My mom ended up sending me to live with my grandfather out in the Ozarks of Missouri for the summer to get me away from everything. When I came back, I fell right back into the same crowd. And it wasn't going well at all. We were just having a lot of problems, my mother and I. So my real father got involved, who I didn't know. You know, they got divorced when I was a baby. He ended up coming to get me, brought me back to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And his wife didn't want me there. I fell right in the middle of the bad crowd there. So they ended up taking me to Panama City, Florida, putting me in the psychiatric rehabilitation center. So I was in there for a while with all this crazy people on medicine, like I'm on all these meds. And this one guy who worked there just kept talking about me going to foster care. So I think I was just a few weeks away from going to foster care. My mom came back in the picture, brought me back down to Daytona Beach, Florida, put me in a Catholic high school. And I knew then I needed to try and be better, because now my mom has this financial responsibility on her shoulders. So that's when I was like, all right, I'll get into sports. So I was playing baseball, football, I was doing track and field, volleyball. I mean, I was just trying to do everything I could to keep myself active, out of trouble. And I did better. Still got in a little bit of trouble from, here and there. But I just had no idea where my life was going, because I wasn't thinking about my future at all. I was just living in the moment, thinking that I knew everything. I was the popular guy, but that doesn't translate over into real life. So the sports was more of the catalyst, because it took you away mostly. Yeah. Because you didn't have time. Yep. For those other things. Yeah. And so then when you go in, what was the boot camp experience like? Where did you breeze through? Actually, what was the ASVAB like? The ASVAB actually was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I passed it on the first go. And I was doing a lot of work with the recruiting station, was prepping for boot camp. But when I got to boot camp, I thought it was going to be more physical. It actually was more mental, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. So you might be done first at everything, but if, Joe Schmuck over there is always last, then you're always getting punished for what he's doing. So the goal is to try and lift him up to bring him to the forefront. So I just started learning a lot about myself in terms of leadership and just all these hidden traits that I never knew I had. So it brought out a lot. I say Marine Corps boot camp, and really the Marine Corps is what, turned me into a man, from this unruly kid to actually being a responsible adult. So where do they put you after boot camp then? So you go from boot camp, I ended up having the MOS of infantry, just basic rifleman, 0311. Yeah. So I went to the School of Infantry, and that was another couple months. And then I got sent to my first duty station, which was 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. So was the infantry basically your A school? The School of Infantry was prep for the Fleet Marine Force. Okay. So I got to the Fleet, and as soon as I got to the Fleet, we were already doing a workup for Okinawa. Jungle warfare training. Yes. In the earlier phases, were you ever deployed? No. So I ended up going from, this is where my Marine Corps career was a little different. I ended up going from infantry, Fleet Marine Force, to all of a sudden I got cut orders to the body bearer section. And then from the body bearer section, I was supposed to go back to the Fleet. But then I ended up getting cut orders to go to the Pentagon to be personal security for General Pace, who at the time was the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So I had to go through a lot of specialized training for that duty. Are you feeling like you're not the man you're supposed to be? Low confidence, negative thoughts polluting your brain. That's me. I get it. I've been dealing with messed up hormones
most of my life. A couple of years I hooked up with American Health, and it was one of the best things that I ever did. They're a health optimization platform that does advanced lab works and goes deeper than probably what you've ever seen before. What you'll get with American Health is they have guided optimization and the self-service diagnosis. I personally have been using the guided optimization for the whole time I've been with him. Dry is my health coach. He does an amazing job. The second route that they have is the self-service diagnostics. This is just a DIY with your own health journey. You just head over to American Health, pick the panel, and they'll send you the report. You just kind of go from there. And either way, I highly recommend them, and you can get 10% off right now. Just head over to AmericanHealth.com and use the code TableTalk at checkout.
And in that duty is where I spent some time downrange in Iraq and Afghanistan. And when I was departing from, or when I was ending my active service, I had to make a decision. Could I go from that back down to the regular Marine Force, or do I take the opportunities that were presented to me at the Pentagon and actually start thinking about a future outside of the Marine Corps? Because I became very goal oriented, and when you're in the Marine Corps, you're kind of confined by the restraints of being government property, because that's essentially what you are. I chose to get out and do some contract work downrange in Iraq with identity management, which is all classified at the time. But I spent 4 years just about straight. How
much different is that than actually being in?
It's a lot different in a lot of different ways. So being a contractor, you've got a lot less support. You're typically paid more. You have nicer accommodations, but sometimes you're put in positions that can be a little more dangerous, because if you get stuck somewhere, you just hope that the right resources are available to come to come get you. And for me, I had my first project. The first 2 years I had, I ended up becoming the operations manager to the country manager. So I had 10 tier 1 sites, which are the bigger bases, and I had 5 tier 2 sites, which were the little smaller forward operating bases, and I also had 3 DNA labs. So I was always traveling. I was always in a helicopter, always in a convoy. I was always somewhere doing something with somebody, whether it's and being embedded with a tactical team to go roll up some who knows who in whatever town, because we had a special priority for VSAT essentially. So if we know we're going to look for somebody and we find them in this village, then we have handheld devices that we can actually verify who they are biometrically, and we have the priority from an internet perspective to shoot records back and verify who they are to make sure the records that we have from a revocation list meet the criteria that we're going to get them for.
So you guys are on the front end of the biometrics.
We were the test bed for what's now the DoD Biometrics Task Force, the BTF.
How was that? Because that had to be like, in my brain, that would be like a mind fuck. Like, we can do this. It's like, this is cool. We can do this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, we can do this.
Yeah. It was wild. It was really wild. But we caught a lot of bad guys, and ultimately by doing that, you become another target.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you say you could just like put the camera on them, and within seconds you'd know who they were?
Yes, you have like these little handheld devices, and at the end of every day, they're always updated with a new revocation list. So as our latent fingerprint examiners are out in the field lifting latent fingerprints, and we're capturing new data, it's always being updated. So maybe today you're not on it, but if you're making bombs, then we can still lift a latent fingerprint off of ordnance that's been exploded or has been detonated. Now you're on it, so we can go find you, and we just put your thumb on it.
So what was the catalyst for the decision to stop contracting and go into the real world?
It was 05 to 09 is when I was there, and towards the end of my time there is when we were transitioning everything back over to the Iraqis. So it was getting really weird, because all of a sudden now where you would normally have a coalition checkpoint. Now you're rolling through an Iraqi checkpoint. So there was no true green zone anymore. And there was a lot of things that kept happening that were, it's like, that could have been really bad. I probably could have got shot there, or probably, you know, who knows what it is, but the support was even less than it was before. And there's only so many close calls you can have before you're like, you know what, this just isn't worth it anymore. I've got a family back home. The whole reason I was doing this in the first place was actually to, you know, get in on the ground level of a new technology that could give me longevity in the civilian world with an actual career. And that was the premise of why I even went that direction and did the technology piece. So
it's a total of 12 years then between the Marines and the contract work?
Yeah, a little over 11 years, yeah.
All right. So then you get out into the real world, which they don't do anything to really prepare you for.
No.
Where'd you go then? I mean, what was the first, where'd you move to? What was the first job?
I moved to New Orleans to actually do more contract work with Marine Forces North, which is the Marine Corps Component Command under U.S. Northcom. And when I got there, things didn't really line up the way I had anticipated them to. So it kind of left me in a bad spot. And I was trying to figure out how to shift, how to pivot, how to navigate through the next step. Like, where do I go from here? Because this isn't working like I thought it was going to work. And it just led me down this path of, you know, trying to network, trying to meet people. At the time, I couldn't sleep. I was dealing with some post-traumatic stress issues. I wasn't looking at it like that because I was just trying to survive. But it was all, I could just feel the noose tightening. And it just got to a point where no matter where I went, like, I would have great conversations with people at networking events. I was at a point where I had to read a book on just how to have conversations with people, because people just talk about the most mindless, stupid stuff. And I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like, I want to work and I want to be home. Like, I need to recharge. I need to fix my mind. So that's it. I ran through all my money. When I was overseas, I was married. and ended up getting divorced. I became another statistic. And so financially, I had a lot of money going out different ways, and I could only survive so long. And I'm not a business-minded guy. I knew nothing about business. My whole life outside of high school had been the Marine Corps. So I wasn't prepared for all the things that life would throw at me. I'm a handshake guy. If I shake your hand, it's as good as gold, but it's not reciprocal in the real world. So I got burned a lot. And it just left me in a place where I had to just do what I could. And that was filing for bankruptcy and trying to start over.
Is that when you're living in your car?
Yeah.
Right. So as you're doing that, then what's keeping you from going back to what you were doing when you were in 7th grade, 6th grade?
Well, I would never go back to that direction, because I was from a growth perspective, that's not who I was anymore. I would never bring myself back to that place, although I was thinking about suicide. And then this is where I feel like I was being a little bit selfish about my thoughts, because I was thinking about everything in terms of me. And really what I needed to do was reframe my whole thought process, because granted, I wasn't active duty doing a lot of the things over there I was doing, but I did lose very close people to, and I think about everyone who didn't make it back, or I think about everyone who did make it back who, is in a wheelchair, or they're missing limbs, or, whatever the case may be. I'm lucky that I have my mental health and I've got my physical health. So it comes back to me having a sense of responsibility to do something with my life. And this is where I say fitness was, a huge piece. And me being in New Orleans was a huge piece, because that's where the whole destiny thing came into play, where God's plan kind of revealed itself to me. Because I had no idea when I moved to New Orleans that when I got there were more films and TV shows being shot in Louisiana than anywhere else. So like I say, I filed for bankruptcy, was living in my car. I needed a goal. I said I was going to do this bodybuilding show. I was going to do something with health and fitness around the city, promote it, promote myself, show people what I'm able to do. And in doing that, the gym that I actually started personal training at would be a gym that a lot of celebrities would come to, because it was like a little boutique 24-hour gym. And that's where Zac Efron came in, doing a movie about a Marine Iraq veteran. So that's where we met.
So at this time, all the money that you're making from personal training is going into your food and everything that you need to be able to bodybuild, and you're still living in the car?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I was sleeping in my car, sleeping on the massage table, cooking food at other people's houses, just doing whatever I could to kind of piecemeal my whole life together. But him coming in and having that experience was kind of surreal, because I'm like, all right, well, it breathed life back into me, because I realized, all right, there's something here that I think I can do that no one else is doing.
So what was the experience? So he comes in and
he came in, he saw my picture on my personal training picture on the wall, personal trainer picture, and it was kind of like this Marine Corps collage type thing. So we talked, and they brought me to set. I met the director and producer. They talked about the movie, what they needed him to be and do and look like and all this. So that's when they hired me to be his technical advisor. That was my entrance into film and TV. And what happened then was I met a lot of the crew members, and they all realized how good I was at what I do. So they started updating me with all these production reports. So every time a production came in, that production report would be updated. So I would get this list. It had the address and everything of where these productions were. And this is where I say I went into like guerrilla warfare mode. I just had flyers made, and every week I was hitting every office. I wanted everyone to know who I was. I was giving out free personal training sessions. I was giving out free nutrition advice. I came in there and I wanted everyone to know who I was. And when I left there, I didn't want them to forget me. So
how were you figuring out how to train these people? Right? Because up to this point, your whole background has been military and training yourself. So now you basically have Gen Pop, for lack of a better word, coming in, and you're training for bodybuilding, right? Are you training them like you would train a bodybuilder?
No, not training them like a bodybuilder, but I was knowledgeable enough to know how to manipulate the body through exercise and nutrition. And that was the biggest key for me that differentiated me from a lot of other people. Was I was able to adapt on the fly. When I got into fitness pretty hot and heavy in 98, 99, when I was in the Marine Corps and everyone would go out on the weekends and party and do all weird shit, I'd be at the vitamin shop or the bookstore reading nutrition books. And I was just always trying to educate myself. So I started building this whole database of knowledge on my own. And I would experiment on myself, and then I would experiment on, some of my Marines, because they would always want to know what I'm doing. So I'm like, here, try this. And so I started learning how to, based on your body type, based on your injuries, based on whatever it is that you need to look like, I started to understand more how to do it, because I'm looking at the body more as art. And when these actors would start to come in and train with me, some of it would be easy. Maybe they're doing a bedroom scene and they just need to shed a little bit of water weight or something. And then you got, maybe like the movie G.I. Joe, where I trained the whole cast. And that was very intensive, because you've got all these different characters that need to look a certain way and need to move a certain way. So it gave me more homework to do. So it became this evolution of trying to educate myself in every possible way. So just doing as much research as I could. I was just reading books like every free moment I had.
When people think of celebrity trainer, they basically default think to getting somebody shredded for whatever the film is. But I have to think that it's more along the lines of making sure that they're resilient to be able to get through the filming, and that they have the mobility that's actually required, because not all of them are going to be shirtless roles and stuff like that. They just need to be able to get through that role. So is that kind of how you were seeing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a, you're just one facet of an actor's day. And you might have them at the beginning of the day. It could be at 5 in the morning. You could have them at the end of the day. It could be 10 at night, or it could be even worse. If they're filming nights, you might get them at 2 a.m. So you've got to understand, like for me, I have a plan in place about how I want to train them, but more times than not, I would have to shift that because they were either too tired or weren't motivated or just didn't even want to be in there. And they're not like us where we live in this space. We live for the pain. We live to be in the gym. That's not Hollywood. So I think most of why I gravitated toward the action genre is because I was more of a hardcore type guy. And so I might have one plan in place. They come in, and I already know automatically I've got to shift because I need to wake them up. I need to get them remotivated. I need to get them inspired. I need to plant seeds in their head, because to me, the fitness piece is a very mental thing. Anyone can come in and lift, but like, how can you plant seeds in there that'll keep them wanting to stay on top of their game, no matter how hard it is, no matter how tired it is. So I would not trick them, but I would play little mind games with them to make them think about things that they wouldn't think about otherwise.
And so Zac led into just the referral from that.
Well, Zac was the entrance into it. I didn't know that him and I would work for several years after, but he liked the style of training that I did. So he would recommend people when they would come into town. But I had a TV director come in after Zac, and I was actually about to move to LA with this director, because I don't know what's going on in New Orleans, but there was a sign for me that said, you have to stay here and really create something. Because before I was about to leave to go to LA with this director, within the course of a week or two, I got a call from Stallone, who was doing Bullet to the Head. I got a call from the production office to train the cast for G.I. Joe. Zac was coming back in to do Paperboy, and James Marsden was coming into town to do a movie. So I was like, now it's like all of a sudden everything hit me at one time. So I had to be able to manage all that as well. And I would say for the first several years, I didn't even sleep like a normal person slept, because I might be doing a movie during the day and a movie during the night. So I was living on naps for probably 2 or 3 years. But it was worth it, because I was able to create a career that I could have never even imagined. Not saying that Hollywood is the ultimate, because honestly, I love working on productions. I love working in Hollywood when you're with good people. But Hollywood is full of such shit people who really don't care anything about except for themselves. And it's why I never really fit the Hollywood mold. And probably why I wasn't as successful, because I don't care what party you're going to. I won't be there. Like, I'd rather be at home doing my meal prep. I'd rather be reading. Trying to get some sleep. Just something that's more up my alley. I get hired to do what I'm good at, and that's it.
So that influx is what was the catalyst to move to California? That
was the catalyst to keep me in New Orleans.
In New Orleans.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was on the way to head out.
Okay. So then when did you head out?
So I ended up leaving in 2015 is when I moved to LA. And that's because, as I got a lot of notoriety from these bigger name actors, it brought in directors and producers who wanted to train with me as well. And they kept encouraging me to think about getting in front of the camera. So I started doing stunt training, got involved in the stunt community, and then got an acting coach, started learning the craft of acting, which is...
How was that? I mean, coming from the military life to that.
Crazy. I mean,
we explain crazy.
My first acting coach I had in New Orleans, within the first few sessions I had with him, I was ready to fight him. Because I thought he was screwing with me, because I didn't really understand the nature of acting and the craft behind it, right? So there's animal work and there's all these different methods, and it's like he was trying to pull all this stuff out of me. He was really trying to get me to a place where I could embrace vulnerability, because I think as an actor, it's very important that you can do that, because you never know what role you're going to get, and if you can't be vulnerable, you won't have anything to offer as an actor, because you're going to be just you always. So once I actually was able to embrace the vulnerability part, I realized, oh shit, this is another form of therapy. Like I really like this, because now.
So you're like barking like a dog and walking around like an elephant?
Well, if you think about the way, if you think about the way like animals move, so depending on what if you're doing a movie and the character is like this sleazy, low life kind of backstabbing snake, you might think about how a snake moves, or you might think about, based on the movements of animals, you kind of mimic that into the way you portray yourself. Be a bear, a lion, depending on the character, you can like use animal traits. And there's so many other things. That's just one facet of it. And I was starting to learn all this, which was very eye-opening, but it at the same time, it allowed me to actually start using a lot of these different emotions that I had just repressed so deep that I would never do anything with. And that's bad in itself, because you suffer from that in silence.
Mm-hmm. So it was a form of therapy in a way. Yeah,
and it still is today. It's why I love acting so much today. It has nothing to do with the celebrity piece of it. I could care less about that.
So then when you were out there, did you start picking up roles?
Yeah. Everything was going great up to 2020. I was actually starting to phase out of fitness because everything was going so good. 2020 was all lined up to be the biggest year acting wise I had. And then obviously COVID hit and the whole industry shut down. And when it started coming back online, it was even more toxic than it was before. And I'm like, I got to break from this, because my mind is just not, I can't be around people who just talk nothing but politics. And if you're not on their side of politics, then they want to do everything they can do to make sure that you never work again.
We live in some crazy times right now where there's not a day that I don't go on the internet and I see some BS crap about this research study or this research study. This isn't new. I've been in this industry for 4 decades. One thing that's helped me is 8 years ago, the mass research review started and became a godsend. The mass research team are professional researchers that are also meatheads. So they've done this great job of being able to take all these topics and put them into this research review that I get every month. I'm excited to partner with them. I spoke with Eric Helms about this on the podcast. It's simple, it's easy. They're offering a 20% discount to all podcast listeners. The code is EliteFTS20. When you join, you get the research review, which is going to be sent to you every single month. That has 7 to 9 articles in there. The archive, which is 1,500 articles, thousands of videos. Just head over to massresearchreview.com and use the code EliteFTS20. The link will be in the description.
Mm-hmm. And that's not the right environment for me.
So what's the transition then? Because, I see this reoccurring, build up, crash down, build up, crash down. Yeah. Here it is. So that as that's crashing down.
Crashing down. And here it is now. What I realized was everything that I was doing up to that point was reliant on my work in Hollywood. I had no depth outside of it. So in Hollywood, I'm doing celebrity training. I'm doing stunt work. I'm acting. I'm doing technical advising, everything. You take all that away, what do I have? I wasn't ready for, at the end, I wasn't ready for life. I wasn't thinking about my business. I wasn't thinking about longevity for myself, where I didn't have to rely on someone else. So I ended up going down the space where I was trying to look into the online coaching space, because I'm like, I can do that. I just don't know where to start. So I got a couple mentors to try and teach me how to do it right. And I could never really find the model that fit me, because it was all based around social media and all these videos, and that's not how I wanted to do my business. So I found a couple high-level executives and started training them, made massive transformations. One lady's writing a book on the transformation we did, and it just became this referral thing and word of mouth, and I just started getting a lot of clients and was doing really well with it. And then I met this one guy, I don't even want to say his name, but I met this one guy who talked a good game. No one really knew who he was at the time. He was just coming online, going viral, sales guy out of Scottsdale. And a business mentor of mine was like, you should jump in and do this. You guys could create something cool together with fitness. So I ended up leaving Vegas, moving to Scottsdale, and found out this was the biggest sociopath I've ever met in my life. Like the biggest con artist, the biggest grifter, the biggest piece of shit I've ever met, really. Like
you were not able to pick up on that from the jump? Because you would think throughout your military experience.
No one did. No one could pick up. Even a lot of the guys that I respect in the business world were telling me I needed to meet him. And then he started to get big-headed because he was getting all this attention now and all this fame. And even from the time I got there until the end of 23, like, he just started becoming this different person. Ended up not paying me all this money. They owe me so much money.
Well, it's interesting because in your past, you were working with people that are way bigger names.
Yeah.
Which obviously have way different personalities, which is kind of like showing that that's not required to be able to be at that level. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Well, I really resonated with the message this guy had, because it was family, it was faith, it was fitness, and he was trying to come online to build something pretty cool and unique with fitness. And when we connected, it just felt like a good fit. And he had a team of people around him who seemed like they were, real, but it just ended up being a big facade. And I don't think it was as bad when I got there, but as his reputation grew and his sociopathic mindset grew and his need for attention grew, he became a different person than he was. I mean, it happened really quick.
Yeah. Well, saying and believing are two different things.
Yeah.
So that puts you kind of where you are this year.
Yeah. So I left. I ended up staying. I stayed for a year, and then I left, and now I'm just all in on myself. I have a really hard time trusting anyone now, honestly, because I've been burned so much. So I'm building out my own brand, my own business, working with executives and doing some high level coaching, limited availability, but also trying to create some cool fitness books. Like Matt and I are doing some stuff together on this end. But I'm just a purpose guy. Like I don't get into the fame and thinking about making millions and millions of dollars, although it would be nice. But my goal right now is just, I need to do something for myself that I've never done. I need to take care of myself in a way that I never have.
I'm going to ask you to reframe something, because you say that you don't trust people because you've been burned so much.
Yeah.
But if you think about, let's just go from the military after the military, right? Because it's different. I get that. My son's enlisted in the Navy. I get that. So it's a different environment. But when you look at all the number of people that you've worked with in whatever role, the person that was managing the gym that you were working at, a lot of the actors that you worked with, and all these other people, the percentage of people that have burned you are way less than what you think. It's a small single-digit percent. They just happen to be, bigger in your brain because of that. But when you say you have a hard time trusting people, you see what I'm saying? If you really look deep into that, most of the people that you've worked with, actually the vast majority, have probably been really great people to work with.
Yeah, I think I'm still a little bit jaded, and this is where I'm working on some things mentally for myself because of the positions that I've been put in, and being as old as I am now, feeling like I'm starting over again. It's not a great feeling. So my circle is very small, and I like it better that way, because I don't have to worry as much about someone ill coming in to do something that is going to be for their own benefit on my dime.
Well, starting over again is a weird thing, because did you ever finish?
Well, and this is where I think about everything now in terms of, I don't look at it the way I looked at it before, because if I didn't have all these challenges, I wouldn't have the message that I have now to speak to. So when I like, the demographics that I can speak to is so deep, and I can speak on the fitness level, on the business side, on the military side, on the rock bottom side, trying to rebuild yourself, recreate yourself. So it's this journey has been presented in my life for a purpose. And I've realized that, and I'm embracing it now more than I ever have.
Well, adversity is a constant.
You have to go through adversity.
Well, the way that I kind of perceive it is life is all adversity with specks of non-adversity. And when you look at it that way, you know, it's because if you don't have the adversity, then you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Same thing in the weight room.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, so it's kind of that constant part. But the fucked up part is the reframing, because when you get kicked in the nuts, it fucking hurts. It hurts bad. Yeah. And then you want to hit the fucker in the face back. Oh, yeah. But it takes a while to realize that only if it's going back to when you were a kid, you know, if it's like a street fight and there's a group of people, only one person kicked you in the nuts. Now, granted, those other fuckers just sat there and watched and didn't do anything, but that doesn't mean that they were bad people. Yeah. You know, you just remember getting kicked in the nuts, you know, so that's just kind of how it all is. So that being able to resonate that message, you know, especially to younger people, is huge, because it's a weird world, because younger people get chastised a lot. And I don't know how much that's real, because what we see online is not real, because all the younger people I see are kind of busting their ass. And so I'll hear these messages like most young people are, you know, lazy, they're not working hard. And then maybe, I don't know, all the ones that I do, I kind of see this as an advantage, where if the way I've always explained it is, if when I was growing up, let's say I had to, there were lazy people too. Like there's this fucking weird dichotomy that's thrown out that, like, when I was growing up, you know, there were no lazy people. Everybody was working hard. Everybody was hardcore. Like, no, they weren't. Yeah, there was, like, half the people I know fucking sucked. That's why I was able to beat them at what I was doing. That's why I was able to exceed in sport, because the people that I beat didn't work hard. That's like a large part of them. It's the same today. You know, is it more, is it less? I don't know. But if you're one of the kids that work hard and buckle down, then you're going to succeed, because maybe, you know, if this reality is actually reality, what an advantage if you have less people to compete against than generations that came before.
Don't you think too that I had two business partners when I first started, and they'd always say, nobody works like us. And I used to think they were kind of being like self-congratulatory. And then I think, but I grew up around like you, Louis, Chuck, Buddy Morris was my first internship. So driven, high. And then obviously with what you did, you have to realize not everybody's like you, but that doesn't make them bad people. And that doesn't make them, it might make us actually abnormal, but not everybody's as driven and as motivated as we are. As I've gotten older, I've had to learn to maybe accept that and not be so hard on other people, because you're pushing your drive or your focus or your intensity onto other people. And maybe we're the, you know, I mean, I remember Louis rubbing glycerin on his back. Yeah. Like most people would just not squat.
Yeah, I mean, working hard is no guarantee either.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that's kind of the other thing, is people will work really, really hard and think that it's going to pay off, and it might not. Yeah. We all know that for a fact. We also know people that may not work that hard that does pay out. But where it pays out is in how you feel about yourself.
Well, I've
well said.
I give myself a little more grace now than I ever had before, because like you just said, you can sometimes working hard all the time doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make things better. I'm so hard on myself always, and I'm always striving for perfection, and I'm so used to just working literally 24/7. And I would say since last summer, I've actually started taking more time for myself, you know, to prioritize sleep, to prioritize my health. You know, I'm getting back into my veteran community with more purpose and intention behind it, to do things that will actually help them. Knowing what I've went through, I know I can provide value on that front, which is part of what I'm doing right now with Transcend, the Transcend Foundation, the American Addiction Centers. I'm working with all these people, veteran focused, and it's helping me, because I don't function great without purpose, without something like a goal behind what I'm doing. I can't just fly through life thinking about dollar signs. It's just more to that than me. And I think it's just based on, you know, everything that I've been through.
Well, it's working hard at the right things, right? Because it's one thing that I like to kind of like play with, you know, toss things back and forth in my head with is, you know, we'll bitch about the younger generation with their phones, right? We can just go into a full tyrant and rant about all that. But given the way that the world is now, who's going to succeed better, the person that knows how to use AI from a young age, or the person that just learns how to build fires and live in the fucking woods but never use any digital media whatsoever? You know, who's going to succeed and who's not? You know, so
well, the team I just hired to come on board, they're a very young group of young adults in their 20s, and when I got on my first call with them, I was blown away by their understanding and implementation of technology. And I'm like, I just want to suck some of that knowledge up because I need to think more along those lines, because that's the future right there.
Yeah.
I can't keep, being archaic. I don't even want to be on social media, but I know it's part of the business now. And I'm opening myself up more to listening to some of these young guys, because they're making a lot of money leveraging all this technology without having to work as hard as I've been working my whole life.
Yeah. Well, they are working hard. They're just working hard at something else.
And smarter at it.
You know, see, that's the whole thing with the working hard. So how did you guys hook up? When did you meet?
Well, we met, I used to go out, Stan would come out and train with me. And then one time I went out and trained with Stan, and then Aaron and Aaron trains hard. I'd say Aaron, Stan, they train really, really hard. And I like to train really, really hard. So I think we kind of hit it off on that.
Yeah. I was training with Stan in Vegas, Stan Efferding in Vegas for a few years. And I remember when Matt came in and trained with us, I knew right then we were going to stay in touch. And we kept talking about, trying to do stuff together for a while, and it never lined up. So that's partly why I'm out here now. I'm like, I gotta learn from him, especially watching the West Side, documentary, and just seeing where you guys came from and that whole different mindset. I got a little bit civilized in my isolation, and even just being in his gym, like the culture that he's created in his gym is something you don't see it very often, especially today, where everyone's just in there supporting each other and pushing each other, and they're in there training hard and doing all these unique movements that I don't typically do. And I think a lot of people probably won't do them, because when you're doing everything by yourself, there's this self-limiting motivation you have to push yourself to do something is going to hurt and be hard, that you're not comfortable with, is in a different plane of movement. And so I'm going to come out here again later this year and do part 2, but it's been great picking his brain and John Perillo and using the Perillo supplements, and it's opened my eyes up to a lot of weak areas that I have in my own physique, because at the end of the day, really what I'm trying to do is create the ultimate physique for me in my age, and really just kind of lead by example and show people that age really doesn't mean anything. Everyone says they want to chalk it up to age. Well, you're where you are now because of the choices you made that got you to where you are now. So if you can change those lifestyle habits, you can actually get healthier. You might not be as healthy as if you didn't do those things before, but you can always progress into a new level and adopt a new mindset around what fitness really can be for you.
So what do you see that for you? Like, if you're training for this ultimate thing, right? What does that thing look like? Not physically. Just what is that, in other words, what are you training for? Because from a picture standpoint, big ripped car. What is it? Well,
it's a combination of using fitness and physique enhancement as an artistic expression, but also too as a mental anchor, because I still get in these. I still kind of get in these points sometimes where I bring myself back to places that I've spent, that I lost very close people, and I see the society that we're living in today that's just so, I can't even put it into words. It's infuriating to see what's happening to this country. And so in a way, this whole journey that I'm on right now is it's for mental clarity. It's to be an anchor, and also just to, when I'm working with high level executives and I'm doing my coaching stuff, I want to be what I say I am. When I'm telling you I'm going to do, or I want you to do something, I want you to know that I'm also doing it, that I've been doing it, that I have done it, that I can speak to how it works because I've done it. My clients have all done. Like, I don't want to be the coach that gets online and says to do something that I'm not doing. And I want to look the part that people are inspired to want to look like, or inspired to want to, have some semblance of in some way, whether it's just through discipline, whether it's through mindset, whether it's through strength, whatever it is. Well,
training is the ultimate anchor. It's the only people I have on the podcast are people that put it as one of their top 4 priorities, because it's the only thing that you can actually control. Yeah. Right. You can control it. Right. Now, the outcome, you might not be able to control that, but you can control the effort, kind of what you're training for and all the other kind of stuff. And nobody can really fuck with it, you know, from that. But when, to kind of do this reframing thing again, when you say, society in this country, I always kind of like to go back and say, is it for real? Like, is it, granted, you came from a fucked up place, like Hollywood's a fucked up place, like it's fucked up. But when you travel around, with these other people outside of the person that you don't want to speak about, right? All those other people that you've met, throughout, traveling and all the other stuff, are they what you would define is the country going the wrong way?
Maybe we're what I mean is divided.
Yes.
Divided, not everyone. Because
not everyone, but the media for sure. But as I travel around and talk to different people, I don't see it.
Well, I see it because I'm around every demographic you can think of.
Okay.
Like I'm in the most, not to be political,
sure,
but I'm involved in all sides of it. And some of the conversations I hear, I'm like, how can you even think like that? Like, have you ever even left the city you were born in?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have no perspective on anything to actually be able to even have that view. But you're going to try and talk to me about it?
Mm-hmm.
You can fuck off.
Yeah. So you're seeing it in a more, I live in a bubble, right? So, but when I travel, I don't see the division everybody talks about, right?
Dave, do you think partially, and I don't know where you travel to, but like we're still in a bubble when you travel because we're probably traveling to other
sure,
gyms. And I think the beauty of hardcore lifting is it is the most accepting community.
Well, it's apolitical.
It's just, what do you lift? How strong are you? How can we get better? Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe we have a bubble within our bubble, as we travel.
No, it could be. That's why I'm asking the questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm not outside of that one realm. And if I am, it's barely. It's like
exactly
deviation outside of, and then it's like, oh fuck, I don't want to be around these people. Then you kind of go back to where that bubble is. Could be for the reasons that he's talking about, for that. But it can be this self-defeating prophecy, to where, because I've seen it with people that I know, that they just get caught up in all this, and it's like, dude, you can't control that. Like, if you look at this hierarchy of needs, like, so many people will bitch about that, the politics or whatever it's going to be, and they have zero fucking control of that. Meanwhile, their business is fucking tanking, their family sucks, and their personal health is terrible. It's like, how about you take the 75% of the focus that's going to what you can't control and fucking eat right and start working out, and then that will allow you to be better for your family and be better for your business. It's just so fucking disconnected.
Yep.
Because what can we can vote. You know what I'm saying? That's all we can do. That's how much control.
But don't you think that's the beauty of what we do? And I empathize for people because I've seen it, like in our gym, and people are miserable. Like if politics, or they watch the one. I tell everybody you should not watch the news. Get off CNN or Fox or MSNBC, whatever you watch. Get off it. But people are, to Dave's point, I think people are so wildly obsessed with things they have no control over and little to do with. I mean, other than Cincinnati, and I mean, the Bengals lose, and you think people.
Yeah, well, that's a different thing.
And you're going, you let the Bengals ruin your weekend. And I've never seen Joe Burrow moping around and a reporter say, "Hey, what's going on?" It's like, well, Matt missed his deadlift today. So he's upset, or Matt's business, took a hit. People get so wildly obsessed with things. Like, to your point, you can control how you parent your kids, how you run your business, how you take care of your body, your training. You should be your own hero.
Yeah. Well, I do. I mean, I will say that I do see a lack of self-accountability.
Yeah.
That's widespread, it's nothing's ever somebody's fault. right? Where everything is. You know, when my son was in high school, I was going through that all the time. Like, oh, I got a speeding ticket. It wasn't my fault. Well, you decided to fucking go faster.
Yeah.
You know, somebody sideswiped him. Well, you decided, I mean, if we really back it down, you decided to go that route instead of that route. You know, maybe if you went that route, that wouldn't have, you can boil everything back, you know, to your own personal accountability, where a lot of people don't want to do that, because I do, you know, because
it's like in our gym, if we have a personal training client who's tough, right? And let's say they're high maintenance, whatever. And I'll tell the trainer, like, you're not changing that person. So if you know that person's high maintenance, you should be there 15 minutes early. Make sure you have all their notes. You need to be prepared, because that person's never changing and you have no control on their ability to change. All you can do, are they tougher than, you know, we have some clients that, I mean, I had a client years ago who would open the gym for us. You know, you say, hey, you can sleep in, I'll get there early. That's, you know, that's the unicorn, right? But if you have a customer that you know is high maintenance, not about my business, but then get there, to your point, get there 15 minutes early. Be prepared. Keep your notes. Keep all your emails, because you know that's how they are.
Yeah.
So rather than bitching about it, accept it, and or just don't take them as a client. Yeah. I really don't want to hear about it, because I know they're high maintenance. You took them on. They're paying you. So just adjust. Be early. Don't be late. Don't overbook when they're there. Like, whatever you have to do to make that person happy, that's just the deal.
Dave Tate here from Elite FTS to talk to you about bands. We've been a supplier of bands for almost 2 decades now. So I've known my way around the band landscape. When I'm talking about bands, I'm talking about floss bands, long bands, short bands, bands you can use for resistance training, mobility training, body weight training, and flossing. One of our most popular bands, or actually our most popular bands, are the long bands. The long bands are typically used the most with squats, bench presses. Our floss bands are bands that you wrap around the joint to be able to help with mobility, circulation. And the short bands are designed for shorter range movements, bench press, deadlifts, and a lot of times people will use them with resistance machines to help accommodate the strength resistance curve. Head over to elitefts.com and look for bands in the toolbar or blowout menu. Yeah.
This idea that, like, they're hype, they are. So what?
So do you miss the, more than the acting, like the stunt roles? Because that seems like that'd be cool as fuck.
It is, but
as long as you don't get hurt.
That's the thing, is you never, you know, I guess I'm kind of a typecasted guy with my physique. Automatically.
Yeah, kind of fucked.
Yeah. So my body's pretty beat up. So I don't, my favorite kind of stunts to do would be water work. I love fire and driving. Do I do any of those? No. I'm always getting beat up. Thrown out a window, thrown downstairs. But it's, you know, it's really fun though when you're working around good guys. So I say the stunt community is probably the closest thing to the military outside of the gym, when you have a culture like you guys have. But like one of the last big stunt projects I did was Birds of Prey. It was a DC Comics, and the scene was like in this big kind of like warehouse, and there were just a lot of different fight sequences going on at one time. And where our fight sequence was, we're surrounded by mirrors. So when you're filming, it's like normally you can cut and just get this scene and just get, well, because we had all the mirrors, we had to just do this fight scene so many times, and we didn't have our shirts on, so we couldn't pad up like we'd want to. And you know, when you're getting kicked off a platform and you're having to land on your back over and over and over and over, I remember it was probably some of the hardest recovery time I've had, because it got to a point after it was a month. We shot this scene for a month. And after about 2 weeks, I remember coming home, laying on the couch. I couldn't even lay in bed. I was laying on the couch. I had like a mountain of pillows where my feet were like up. I was having sciatic pain, which I never have. And I was like, popping oxycodone and smoking weed and doing gummies and anything I could do just to, just to be able to sleep. So it's, I mean, you're sacrificing your body for sure. So there's a payoff with this, trade-off with the stunts is you got to sacrifice your body a little bit more than maybe you want to. And I think that's why the younger guys are so good right now. Cause man, they're these stunt tricks they got with the martial arts. And I mean, I watch some of these stunt performers and I'm just blown away that that's even possible to do with a human body. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool though. And it's a constant evolution of learning too. I've done parkour. I mean, I remember doing parkour for the first time. I didn't even know I had, like, my fingertips were sore. Like, no, I mean, it's the craziest thing, but there's just so many disciplines within the stunt community and the.
How much did you weigh when you were trying to do that?
Like 230, 240. Yeah. But I mean, I think I proved to a lot of the stunt guys that I was willing to do whatever it took and that I was willing to go all in. And same with the gym. Especially being back here on this trip, taking my mind back to a place I haven't been in a while. I like pushing myself to the limit. I like learning. And at the end of the day, it's like, the more I can learn, the more I can help someone else.
With your upbringing up until you went into the military, moving around all the time, foster kid and overdosing and all that, what's your biggest lesson from that, just up till that time?
Yeah, as a kid,
mm-hmm.
I hear this saying a lot from people. When they're a kid, they talk about, I can't believe that was me. And I wish there was a way to impart that on the young generation, the kids, not just this generation, but I'm just saying for all generations who are in high school and in grade school and stuff, who don't really think about the sacrifice that the parents go through to make sure their kids have everything they need. And, you don't know everything as a kid. Matter of fact, you don't know shit as a kid. And, but I think a lot of it comes to the family structure. If I would have had a tight family, I wouldn't have been in the position I was in to get in that much trouble, because I see a lot of these families who actually, spend time with each other, do things with each other, hold their kids accountable for doing bad things. Like, there's repercussions if you do things that are bad. And parenting is, I think, a little bit different these days. But at the end of the day, my lesson is, I don't even know how to put this into words, because I have two daughters that unfortunately I don't have the closest relationship with. And it's something that haunts me every day. But I'm trying to do better for them right now, even though I'm not there in front of them. There's a lot of things that they've been told about me that aren't true. And I kind of look at adolescence different right now because of what I went through. And then now being a father and not having the relationship I want, it's hard. Like, I hope parents hear this more than anything, because I think it's more important now with social media than ever to make sure that you provide a stable foundation to keep your kids from going down that wrong path. That's the hardest thing I have to deal with today, is that relationship that I don't have.
Then the biggest lessons through the military.
The military is, when you join the military, I say join for the right reason. The benefits in college is great, but I say understand what the military was designed for. You're the nation's defenders. And if you can't understand that when you go into the military, your government property, and I don't mean that in a bad way, it just is what it is. And you're going to sacrifice your mind, your body, and your soul to some degree. But if you can do it for the right reason, I guarantee when you get out of the military, whether it's 4 years or 20 years, you're going to have a completely different perspective on life. And I don't know that I would be here today if I didn't join the military. So I say fitness and the military were my salvation. They saved my life.
Then the biggest lessons from your time in New Orleans working with the celebrities.
That piece is not all it's cut up to be. Hollywood looks cool from the outside. The celebrity life looks cool from the outside. But when you're actually in that space and you're in their close circle, and you see all their flaws and you see all their imperfections and you see all the things that they're insecure about and such a fragile ego. Like, it's not, we worship these people because we see them on TV and movies, and it makes no sense to me. Everyone is a human being. They sleep at night. They eat the same food that we do. They put their clothes on the same way we put them on. And it's just as simple as that. There's nothing glamorous to Hollywood for me. It's a job that can be fun, but the substance in it is very shallow.
So if we circle back to those three again, and I asked the question a little bit differently, what were the positive attributes that you took out of your childhood?
The positive attributes that I took out of the childhood would be that I have a lot of perspective now that I can give to anyone who is a kid right now or is a parent right now, based on what I went through and knowing what I know looking back on it.
All right, then the positive attributes of the military.
The positive attributes of the military are they can give you purpose and structure and routine and can really provide an anchor. And, you know, it doesn't have to be in a way that it was for me. It can be different in many other ways. Me being a hardcore infantry guy is different than maybe someone who joined the military for, being a mechanic working on airplanes, because that's a passion. There's so much opportunity in the military that you can really create a strong career in that can set you up for your future life in the civilian sector.
All right, and then the positive attributes from working with the celebrities and being in Hollywood.
Yeah. The positive attributes of the celebrity space would be you can meet a lot of really cool people. You can garner a lot of good advice, because the one thing with a lot of these actors is they've had some pretty fucked up childhoods and some pretty jacked up lives too. And they've been able to use the craft of acting or whatever they're doing in the industry to actually better their lives. So I've had some great conversations with some of these very well-known actors that sticks with me today.
And I would assume your ability to communicate.
Yeah, the ability to communicate. That's probably that. I would say that's a very important piece. Yeah, because you have to. I call it the velvet hammer. You got to really learn how to talk to people, but be firm with people who aren't used to having people tell them the truth and be real with them.
So now, when you take all those together, and you're striving for what you're working for now, the reason I did that is when you first answered those questions,
yeah, it
was all in a negative sense, right? And then when you reframe it, and that's what the positive sense is, that sets you up, for what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So without all those things, because the one question I personally would have just on the acting part is how has that enabled you to be a better speaker? Because that's one of the things people have a really hard time with, is that. But through the acting classes and stuff like that, you can become more comfortable to be able to present.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I still have a lot of work to do on that end. I feel stifled sometimes because I'm such a low key guy. Like I love quiet and silence, and I feel that I've got so much piled up in my brain, just that speaking is a great way to just help get it all out. And by talking about it, the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you get with it, and then the better you can craft a message around whatever it is you need to speak to.
And with what you're doing now, what is the primary message?
The primary message for me, because I live in fitness, is I say fitness is the equalizer, the ultimate equalizer in life. I see all these executive level business owners, CEOs who are massively successful in every area of their life, except for one thing, and that's their health and fitness. So my message is helping them learn how to adopt new lifestyle habits in there, and just to show them that it's not as hard as you think. We're in this space right now where so many people are trying to create their own little niche to, for financial reason. But at the end of the day, the fundamentals are always the fundamentals. Like Matt says, the 50-pound dumbbell that kicks your ass today kicked his grandfather's ass, 20 years ago, and will kick his kids, ass 20 years from now. And it's never ending. And it's the same thing with fitness. Don't overcomplicate what doesn't need to be. But fitness can save your life, and it can open up doors that you can't even imagine.
All right. One more question I have down here in my notes that's on the more serious nature. Then I got some fun questions to be able to go through. But you were in the service during 9/11. So what was that like on your end? On my end, it's a civilian watching it on TV. I was like, what the fuck? I was doing a consult at the time. And it was like, maybe we should stop this consult. But the next day was like Max Effort bench day. And so West Side, nothing, nothing happens ever. But I remember driving in, it was eerie as fuck because there was like no planes and all this other kind of shit. And then we went in and did our Max Effort work. Nobody said shit about it. It was just a normal Max Effort bench day. Now you on the other end were actively in the service. So what was that like?
So I was actually in DC. I was with the body bearer section during 9/11. So I remember we were actually getting ready to do a funeral at Arlington National Cemetery. The plane hit the Pentagon. We were obviously watching the TV beforehand, seeing
So it really hit the Pentagon.
What's that?
So it really did hit the Pentagon.
What's that?
The plane. Because the conspiracy theories start saying, that it did. You smelled it.
Yeah, not only did I smell it, I was like, we actually went there and saw it. So, and not only that, we ended up going 2 weeks after, just less than 2 weeks after, we went up to New York to actually do a funeral, memorial service for a retired sergeant major who was on the police force, who got killed in the second tower that went down. So that was very surreal, actually going to Ground Zero. There was a media deck built. It was massive. And I remember going on the media deck, and you couldn't find a single space anywhere on the wood where someone didn't sign or write something. It's kind of eerie. But being right there and then looking straight ahead and seeing the image that is constantly shown on TV, it was that kind of that piece of jagged metal just kind of standing there while people are, an assembly line of firefighters pulling, people and debris out. And the smell, like I'll never forget the smell. So having been a body bearer, seeing 9/11 happen, being there in DC, being in New York City, and then the invasion happens, and then actually starting to bury some of the people coming back. It was a very, I definitely think about it a lot, even still to this day, because I remember Section 60 at Arlington National Cemetery. At the very beginning, it was just an empty section, maybe just a couple headstones. And it just started rolling, burying guys every day coming back. And then to go over there and kind of be in the middle of it was, I don't know how to put that into words.
If you had to try, what would be the closest that you get to it?
You kind of want, there's a personal revenge that comes out of it that you wish somehow you could accomplish somehow. Like there's a piece of you that just wants to take everyone to task for what happened.
So to lighten up the mood radically, and if we think back, we can think of it's just stupid workouts or super hard workouts that were just dumb as fuck, but you're going to remember for the rest of your life. What's one of them for yourself?
Actually, it was probably when I was in Iraq, in Baghdad. I was training with some of the Blackwater guys, and in the green zone, it was a pretty legit gym they had built, and I was doing deadlifts. Granted, I could have used some cues from you guys on my form, but I remember doing 500-pound deadlifts for 12 reps. Good. And like I couldn't walk for probably 3 days because it was kind of that really jagged form. You know, the first couple were good, and then you're muscling through it with bad form. Yeah. And when I look back and see the video, I just cringe watching it because we had filmed it. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was probably the stupidest thing I ever did. And right now with my back, you know, I've got some lower back issues, and I would be willing to bet that some of that was from that workout. Yeah, but how did it feel when you did it? Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, you know, it's like you got as the day tapers on or tapers off, and you get into the night before you're getting ready to go to bed, and it's like you start feeling it creep up, and then the next morning you wake up and you're like, shit. I'm like, it feels like I feel like I need to stand like this. Yeah, not good. Yeah. What about yourself?
Oh my God. I mean, a million of them. Probably some with you. I mean, I remember, Jesus. I mean, Perillo's probably the hardest. Like stuff you kind of look back and go, that was retarded. Like 100 rep sets of belt squats. And he's screaming. And then we had one workout where he did, you know, he hangs free weights. They're 100-pound plates. So it's not a cable or a pulley or like a lever. It's the
belt squat.
Yeah. It's a rock harness, like get up with hanging weights between your legs. So John's whole thing, John like doesn't know off. So John would have you do like one day he comes in, he pulls out these 200-pound plates. And just to get him over to the belt squat is like a workout. We're all struggling. Pick up 200-pound plates are huge. I said, John, what are we going to do? He goes, you're going to do 800 a day. I said, John, I don't think I can do like 500. I don't think I can do 400 for like without help. Yeah. And he goes, no, because we're going to reset your Golgi tendon. You know, so fuck. And then you go. So on the way his belt squat's set up, I would say 300 is probably like a working weight. 200 to 300's plenty. So if I go to 400, I'm already past failure. My spotter's having to keep me through.
Is this the one that had the handles on the guide rod?
Yeah. So I said, John, I'm already past failure at 400. Why do we need to go to 6 and then 8? And he said, well, that will reset it longer. He goes, you're just giving out at the bottom on 400. You'll give out from the top. So, and then the people there, like one guy looked like an AIDS patient. One was a girl. And like some other guy I didn't know. And I'm like, these guys are going to spot me with 8. So I can barely get the things between my legs. I stand up, 800 pounds between your legs. I'm shaking like crazy. And somehow like, you know, they pick me up. Like one guy's got one arm and a girl's got the other arm and somebody's behind me picking me up. And I ended up doing like 10 reps with 800. I didn't do 1 rep with 800. I got picked up 10 times. And I remember going, and then I had to do 100 pounds for 100 reps straight. And I just said, like, why can't I just use a weight I can use? And he goes, no, that was way better. And I'm like, you know, I don't think so.
Louis used to have it for the belt squat. He had a platform with a hole cut out in the middle of it. Yeah. And that's kind of how we belt squatted, but we didn't have a harness. It was just this belt that went around your waist. That hurt
like a dip belt?
Yeah, it just hurt like a motherfucker. And so the 100, you'd set them kind of in front of you, then you'd have to like just lean back and then it would roll. So it's kind of like in this hole. Then you would be able to squat, or we do handle squats where you use the double D handle. And it was great fucking movement and all that. But the problem was if you ever dropped it, it fell in the fucking platform. Yeah. Right. So now at 300 pounds, you know, there's steps on one side, and then this platform's maybe like this high off the ground. Now these 100-pound plates are way underneath this fucking platform. So I can't even tie my shoes in the first place.
Exactly.
Let alone get under this motherfucker to pull hundreds out, you know? So it's like, it would take 3 of us to be able to do it. So the option to fail was really never there. It was, God, it was the greatest day in the world when the fucking belt squat came in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, this is great. Cause now we don't have to fucking, you know, drop this shit in a hole.
Yeah.
You know, and the handle squats were the worst because it was, your legs are stronger than the grip.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's just like, don't drop this motherfucker. If you did, you'd like have to like hit fuck it, you know, to get it to bump the plates so it would hit the platform and not go in the hole, and hope that it was like that golf ball and it's just kind of like teetering, like hope that fucking thing wouldn't fall in there. But then everybody that we'd be training with wouldn't grab it to be able to help, you know, because like it falls in there, you got to go fucking get it. And everybody wanted to see the other person have to suffer through to go get it. But that's kind of, I think, how John's platform was originally set up.
What's funny about anybody that's, you know, everybody has like a method. Like John's very set on his methods and Louis was set on his. They never had like any concern, it seemed like, for anyone's safety.
No.
Like but you could just tell but they didn't think it was risky. It wasn't that they were throwing it in there to get hurt. It's like they were so set. Like you can tell
that is fucked up to think about, right? Because
think about like
sociopath you got to be for that.
Because they're so focused that they're right, and they want to prove this method.
Well, I don't know if it's that, right? Because we've all trained people, right? And you're watching them work really, really hard, and there's a point where in your head you're like, oh, man, you know, maybe one more. Then it's like they didn't have the stop.
Yeah.
You know, where most normal people are, you see this coming, right? Because we've seen it happen so many times. And it wasn't like they haven't seen it happen so many times before.
Sure.
So it's not like we were better at making that call because we've never, you know, because we've seen it happen. They have. And it's like, nah, fuck it. Go.
Yeah. Well, I thought Louis did it with the bands where he would just, especially I was watching you guys on like the Friday workout. I remember thinking, there's no way that's speed.
No, this is fucking stupid.
The funniest part about Louis is when I'd say, hey, that doesn't look like speed. He goes, oh, it's strength speed. Like he would always just pivot. He's like, you know, like a chiropractor. You go to a chiropractor and you get adjusted and he goes, does it feel better? And you go, yeah. He goes, I told you. Or if you go, actually it felt worse, he goes, your body's so not used to being in the right spot. So either way, they're right.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying what you're watching, make sure to take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe.
It's kind of like the same.
The bands were a fucked up thing.
Because, right.
Joe Amato and myself were amongst the first ones to ever use chains. And we'd run a 3-week wave, 405, 425, 455, and then we'd throw the chains on. We did a few waves of that. Then we went to a meet and squatted. I think I had a 70-pound PR. He had a 60-pound PR. I mean, it's just like completely different fucking lift. And so then the bands start to come in, and then it ends up being in a very short period of time. So that was 60-pound a chain, 3 chains per side, right? So 455, not 4 chains per side. So 80 pounds per side.
So 160 at the top.
That's deloaded completely at the bottom, right? So then the bands come in and all of a sudden, instead of this being 160 pounds of accommodating resistance, it's fucking 400 pounds with the same bar weight. And I'm trying to explain, how does this make sense? Right. Like I'm just trying to because it's hard as fuck too. It's not like it's easy. Like every rep is like fucking max effort work. And I'm like, this does not make sense. Like, how do we have this big jump?
His premise was that it was throwing you down so fast, you would come up just as fast as you would without weight.
Yeah, but it didn't. It threw me down really fast, but it came up slow as fuck, right? And so I'm trying to get this reason for it. And the answer was, you're just weak. Like, I guess, fuck it. Yeah. I guess that's what it's going to be, you know, and it just kept getting worse from there.
What's hard about training, and this is like any sport, right? Like they say, like, who's better, LeBron or Jordan? And, you know, they played 30 years apart. What I find interesting, and I'm always trying to figure out, like, all of this, what I like about your podcast is you're always kind of looking for the holy grail, and it doesn't really exist, right? Because it's a moving target. But you look at some of the stuff Louis was doing pre-bands or chains, I thought his lifters were really impressive. When you guys were doing like, was it like 75, 80, 85 for 8 or 10 doubles? but no accommodating resistance. And I think back then you guys just would do like rack pulls on Monday. So it was like the box squat and then good mornings on Friday. And then like some sort of rack pull or deficit pull on the Monday. I thought you guys had some really impressive lifts in addition to chains. And then especially when the bands took off, was also when the gear got better. So it's hard to say if it's apples for apples because, you know, you guys were squatting in like a poly France suit.
Yeah.
Or what had a France, like was it the Ins or the Z suit or whatever?
Yeah, it was a France suit. Then it went into a France canvas.
So like you could say, was it the bands or was it going into a canvas or was it a combination? So it's never like apples to apples. You can't totally, it's hard to, I'm always interested in like pulling out. Like I'd like to know your opinion. What did you think you were the strongest in training wise? Was it the bands, was it the chains, was it straight weight? Chains is where you felt physically the strongest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the bands had their benefit because it did, there's a certain, at least with a box squat and on the bench as well, but for me, it was more apparent on the box squat. There's like a certain, when you sit, pause, and boom, you pop, right? And I was more explosive than strong. There's a certain feeling of, you know, that, you know, and it definitely got better when you're on fucking drugs. So, but I mean, that's the only thing that I noticed if I was on or off was that ability to have that explosive force was always there, but it was definitely different when it was the other way. And it was kind of the same on the bench. The one thing I think people don't take away from a lot of that training was when, for the majority of my time that I was there, when the squat was growing, before I basically became disabled, but when it was growing, people ask, like, what did you do? It's like, well, we did max effort work, that exercise on Monday. And then on Friday, we did, you know, the dynamic work. Then what else did you do? I did glute ham raise, reverse hypers, and pull down abs. Every now and again, there might be something else in there. Yeah. But the majority of the time, for fucking 8 years, it was glute ham raises, reverse hypers, and pull down abs. And then you rotate like holding a weight, elevating the glute ham, the band around your neck. The glute ham raise was always, you would take it higher, bring it lower, use weight, eccentric only, med balls, whatever it was going to be, it would always rotate in there. But the exercise, there was not this giant list of movements. Now, yeah, there was a lot of different max effort movements. But
even then, I would remember, not to cut you off, but I was telling, he was asking what we do. I said, I felt like we either did camber bar good morning, low box SSB bar, the close stance, maybe occasionally those Anderson good mornings out of chains, which you hated.
Yeah, pin pulls. And that was it.
And then like, it wasn't like a huge...
No. It was not this large array. He just kind of changed how it was. And then, you know, on upper body days, like there's lat work, there's rolling tricep extensions, and there's light extensions. You know, so the way that, for my bench, for the triceps, the way that would work is you found correlations. Like when my close grip incline was 62% of what my shirt max was going to be, I knew it was where it's supposed to be. I knew the floor press, I knew the board press, 92%, 90%. Then I knew the rolling tricep extensions had to be like at 110 or 120 for a set of 6. But you can't periodize that because your elbows are just going to get beat to fuck.
Right.
And so you would back it and know, okay, we're 8 weeks out, this is where it has to be. So it has to be, you know, 100s, 90s, 80s. And then in between there would become the elbows out extensions to be able to feed into that. So everything kind of played its way out, but you don't know while you're doing it. It's just, you look back and you say, that's how it played its way out.
There was a program in a way was linear. You just were going linear on extensions, glute hams, reverse hypers.
Yeah.
And then the core lifts were actually just kind of almost neutral.
Yeah, because I knew, and Louis would know, but I knew exactly where each one of those pieces had to be.
Yeah.
And say 8 weeks out, this piece is here. Cool. I don't have to push it that hard. We can just maintain here, but this piece has to come up. So now we got to do what we have to do to pull that up to be able to get it to balance out. I think any strength program kind of works that way. If people can find, or any program for that matter, if you find what you're training for, right? What are the big rocks? Then what are the things that have correspondence to the big rocks? And most people can kind of go to that level. Then there's the next level. What are the things that have the correspondence to the things that have the correspondence to the big rocks? Then your program's done, right? Because after all that, like, okay, now what can get fucked up?
Yeah.
right? Then that's the low end stuff. Like this, all this will definitely probably fuck my rotators up.
Yeah.
All right. So you got to put in this secondary stuff to be able to pull that through.
I think, you know, I have a bigger gym than I've ever had right now. And with that comes, you know, you got USA PL lifters, you got all different. And I think the biggest comment I make to these guys, what, you know, probably don't want to hear it, or sometimes they do. I think people are so dogmatic and they're not curious, and they almost want to, like, that's good, that's bad. It's like with people, I say nobody's all good, nobody's all bad. We want to make it like the movies, like a villain and a good guy. And it's like the anti-Louis guys are like, or anti-geared guys. It's like, that's stupid, that's dumb. It's like, why don't you, it couldn't have been all stupid. You're not just, I'd love for you to throw on a suit, take a shot of test, and see you squat a grand. You're not.
Well, everything's still variation. So with those guys there, you know, it may be their tempo squat.
Correct. Or
right. Or high bar or pause squat. What's the correlation?
But even then, I mean, you have to respect that Louis was still competing in his 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Pulling over 600. So it's like, you had to learn something. So like for a guy like Aaron, who doesn't really want to power lift or bodybuild, I use a lot of stuff that I learned from you guys. Like, for example, Aaron wants bigger arms. Aaron's 46 years old. His joints are beat to hell. How can I raise the volume in his arms without breaking down his elbows? We do a lot of sled curls. Like how many? Almost every other day.
Freaking level.
And Aaron's going like, how am I, the first day he goes, how am I going to recover from this? My arms are shot. And the next day he's fine. So that's a tool I took from Louis that has nothing to do with powerlifting, but it goes to longevity. So how can I get more out of these athletes? And the young people, I want to stress to them, I see a lot of these guys are like, I just do SPD, SPD, SPD. And I say that works when you're 20. But you can already see with some of the guys as they progress, their habits are getting worse, right? Like more knee valgus, knees shooting forward. And you go, look, you can dump on posterior chain all you want, but that is going to catch you. You're going to get an injury. It's just going to, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And then to be able to pivot, that's why I'm so fascinated with, I love talking to, like, at the last meet, as I was talking to Tom Waddle and trying to pick their brains of, hey, what would you have done differently? What'd you like? Most of the guys kind of say what you say. They thought the chains and the older stuff was actually better, that the bands took it too far.
Yeah.
But you're just picking stuff, and then you got to see what works, and nothing's going to work for everybody.
Well, I think
It's arsenal.
Yeah, I would put that out there. But the other thing I would put out there is I think that, you know, on the max effort work, that should have been dialed back. You know, and we did a pretty decent job of dialing it back, but egos come into play.
Sure.
You know, and with if that was dialed back and nutrition a little bit better, and, you know, mobility, you know, other little factors.
You think TJ's wasn't good?
Well, the reason, the reason I throw this out there is because the ones that are coming up now, and they're serious about bodybuilding or whatever it is, there's that mentality, a meathead mentality, right? And there's their overreaching point. Part of that's necessary, right? Because you got to anchor, you know, what your effort is. But if you can be able to control that, and that will allow you to have 3 more years at your peak.
Yeah.
Right. If you could tack 3 more years on at my peak before the decline, because the decline happens to everybody, before my decline happens, or any athlete for that matter, you tack 3 more years on before the decline happens, then they're at a whole nother level. They're like 5, maybe even 10% higher than their actual best ever was.
Right.
And that's just by mitigating the stupid shit that probably didn't have any impact from the get-go in that whole game. So the question I would throw to you is, if you were to look back at how you were training when you were younger, being beat up now, what were some of those things that you may mitigate, you know, to be able to not be as fucked up as you are now? It's still going to happen, right? But I think with that mitigation, we get it to happen a little later.
I would have done a lot more mobility work. Like some of the stuff I'm doing with Matt, I wish I would have known how to do that back then when I was just lifting heavy. Wasn't stretching, wasn't doing mobility work, wasn't focused on anything athletic, cardiovascular, like literally just get in the, in my 20s, I just remember going in there, getting under the bar and just lifting as heavy as I could for as long as I could. And then that was it. And then I would just eat.
I think the key with that is they don't have to increase their mobility or their flexibility. they need to not lose it. And that's a different way to look at it, because I see a lot of people that will jump on the mobility train or the flexibility train and then just like go bonkers with it.
Well, what's like some of the stuff you've got me doing, like on the ATP, just working my hips, keeping my hips more in better alignment.
So I'm doing a lot of marches, step ups.
Yeah, so it's marching with a belt squat.
Yeah, and then
we're stepping up on the belt squat.
The sled, I'm obsessed with the sled. We're actually getting one while we're here, shipping it back home. All that little stuff, if I would have known how to do that back then, I think my body would be in a much better position right now. I probably wouldn't be as injured.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. I mean, you got to raise your wear capacity or your volume. The problem is you can't, it's not like we're in a strength sport. So it's not as if we're out like practicing to play basketball. You can shoot 1,000 free throws a day. You can't squat well, I guess if you're Bulgarian, but you can't squat 3 times a day. So how do you raise your volume and bring up weak points without killing yourself? And that's where the sleds and the marches and the banded leg curls and banded triceps come in so valuable. Or in his case, he wants bigger arms, so the sled curls. We do a lot of sled work for his hamstrings, because you just can't.
Well, a lot of that, it leaves the eccentric.
Exactly. Well, and it eliminates, the stress. To your point, if you squat 3 days a week, that's, if you said 3 sets of 5, that's 15, loaded knee bends, axial loads on your spine. At some point, I don't care how much you stretch or do mobility, that's going to wear you out.
Yeah.
The other thing is these people take stuff. I cannot, the 3 things I can't stand, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. If I hear one person say the Russians did this, that's like this blanket statement. Like anybody, like a Russian chewed bubblegum. So we should and there's no context, number one. We're reading these books that are translated, and we also know that that's all they did. And we don't know what kind of drug use they were on. We don't know if they really lasted, and we don't even know if they really did it. Because we all know guys who say, I talked to a guy today who trained with a famous powerlifter who has a program out, and he goes, yeah, he never did that.
Yeah.
I won't say who, but it was like, he goes, he lifted with them in Kentucky. He goes, he never did that. He never did it once.
And that would be my first default thing, is how do you know they really did that?
And then how do you blanket statement? I talked to Andrei Milenichev about 3 years ago through his wife. His wife translates for him. And she said he did 1 set of squats. He did good mornings, 1 set of deadlift a week, bench twice a week, and weighted planks and snatch grip rows. That's it. So that doesn't jive with.
No, but most training.
But he's Russian. So was that what the Russians did now? Like, does that discard everything Mel Siff wrote about?
Yeah.
No, it's just they throw this stuff out there like they don't even cite it. The Russians did this. How do you know?
Most training is just repetition, grind, consistency.
It's funny though.
But we'll see the Rocky montage and think every training session needs to be that, but it's not that for anybody that you ever watch train.
No.
Now, when you were training with some of these celebrities, what was that like? I'm sure some bust their ass, some don't, but it's still consistency is what's going to matter the most. But is there anything that sparks, like did something that was beyond what you thought they could do? Like they're way stronger than what you thought?
No. No. I remember training with The Rock and doing legs, and we did some massively high volume with legs, like 100 rep sets. That was probably, seeing the amount of pain he was in, something about that motivated me more. So it was like a pre-workout for me. It gave me more mojo to keep going. But outside of that, it was really hard to get some of these guys to push themselves, which is why I just focused on doing more volume. Because there's the mindset's not there typically to endure pain. Usually pain is when they want to cut it off. I had one actor, well-known actor, want to stop every time he started sweating. So just all around the board, everyone was different. So it was always trying to navigate through that.
So how did you navigate that one?
I would get there early and have the gym put the AC higher. or AC lower, yeah. So it was a little colder. I can push a little bit longer. Yeah, they're all different. I had an actress who couldn't even look at herself in the mirror when I was training, so she'd have to turn her back away. A lot of strange stuff. Yeah.
So weird.
Give me another one.
I had one guy who always wanted to train with one of those oxygen masks on, which is a very limiting factor when you're trying to really train hard.
And was that because he saw somebody else doing it, or?
He just felt like he needed it. Yeah. He's a experienced martial arts guy.
Yeah.
So he kind of, you know, in between sets, he would.
So that was probably that time when that was kind of trending around.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
See like Anderson Silva doing it. And
yeah. That's funny how these trends kind of come and go. I mean, if it was really as good as what everybody was claiming it to be, wouldn't they still be doing it?
I say that with everything.
Yeah.
I say with everything. You know, like you wrote an article, you said something a long time ago, there's somebody wrote an article like forgotten exercise, and you're like, they're forgotten because they suck.
Yeah. And there's a lot, you know, there's always stuff that you see trending that we see today even. It's just like skip past. Like, this is bullshit. Like, if it's still around 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And it won't be.
Oh.
You know, nothing is except consistency.
Yeah.
You know, working hard. Getting the right nutrients. It's not that complicated.
It's a whole different fitness space now in film and TV with the introduction of peptides, and you know, I feel like everybody's a celebrity trainer now. The celebrity training piece is just so worn out. You get really big name actresses, actors, celebrities, whatever, and they just happen to have a friend who trains, and they train them and they sweat. And then all of a sudden now this guy is in Men's Health giving, you know, training advice. That was the biggest shock for me moving to LA. Was I'm used to training to train. Like, we're trying to grow, we're trying to get stronger. I'm not like, yeah, you're going to sweat, but that's just a byproduct of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In LA, it's about making you sweat and move, and it's like you're constantly doing something. There's no rest. It was the weirdest thing in trying to adapt into that culture there.
I mean, I probably trained over 10,000 people. That's the number one thing is if you don't get buy-in, if you get anybody like I call it getting downhill on you, where they're like, why aren't we doing this? We should be doing that. You've kind of lost. You know, if you don't command the room right away, it's tough to get it back. Yeah,
the celebrities a lot of times I will actually kind of dictate the direction they want to go in because of what they like to do.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, is it though? Because their main goal isn't some big competition. You know, it's just to be resilient for the role.
Sure. And
there's a million ways to be able to train somebody it's like training Gen Pop.
Well, that's what I mean, though, even in Gen Pop, because if you let somebody, the problem is, let's say that somebody comes to my gym, they come to Beat Fitness, they hire one of my trainers, and they're like, I don't want to do that, I want to do this, and they don't want to do the diet. And they're like, then the problem is they're going to say, I went to Beat and I didn't get any results. It's like, and I tell my trainers, you can't let them dictate the care, because to your point about accountability, no one's ever going to say, you know what, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. They'll say, hey, I went to that trainer, I went on 12 weeks and I didn't get any results. It's like, no, you went to that gym, hired a trainer, and then did exactly what you've always been doing, and your results didn't change. And that's a tough one, because then I've even had that with athletes where I've walked out of a camp of a fighter, and one guy brought me back, but I just said, like, dude, my name's on this. If you go into that octagon and look like you're going to look, I just don't want my name on it. I know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
You know, if you do these silly workouts, you're not going to get in shape. You're not going to be ready. And then you're going to tag me. And so then, like, I mean, there was an athlete that Stan and I worked with, and Stan's like, I want to take him off. He's not doing my diet, but he's tagging vertical diet. He's like chubby. Yeah. Stan's like, I'm going backwards. It's actually a bad endorsement. And so you got to, I kind of get what Aaron's saying. You got to, like, sometimes get on top of it right away. You got to establish the relationship, because once somebody gets downhill on you, it's hard to get it back.
Now, if it's a celebrity for a role, you don't need to get them back, because they may not come back, right?
Well, I always like to build a relationship, though, because it's I want them to refer me to someone else if they need you know, a transformation for a role. And that's really most of my work was for transformations. And I was that guy who I fell more into the crunch time role, whereas like someone was trying to get a transformation done, but they didn't get it done. And now all of a sudden they're coming into town and we've got 4 weeks. It's like, how do you make this work?
Yeah. How do you make that work?
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm like, you got to listen to every word I say, and I'm going to be up your ass every day. I'm going to be checking in with you. I'm going to be checking in with the assistant. I'm going to be checking in with the director, producer, making sure that you're staying accountable to what we're supposed to be doing, even when I'm not with you. And most of the time it worked, but yeah, there's just something very odd about the celebrity training space that I still haven't wrapped my mind around. Because, for instance, there was I had to do a transformation for a really big movie where the main actress started her transformation, I believe it was about 6 or 7 months out, had a really well-known trainer in Hollywood who actually put weight on her, and they ended up firing him, got her another trainer. The other trainer had put her on so many supplements and stimulants that she ended up having a seizure. And obviously he didn't do his homework because she had an underlying condition that it could have been prevented. So then all of a sudden now she's in bad shape. She's scared to do anything. She's scared to take anything. And she's coming into town in like a week to start rehearsals and getting ready for production. So she comes into town. I've got like 4 weeks. And I was able to accomplish it. I pulled like almost 15 pounds off of her, but it was really nutritionally dialed in, so to speak. And then I was doing the training based on the energy she had, because she was just on, like, it was a very heavy action movie. Mm-hmm. So she was just on all day doing stunt work, and she just couldn't eat enough. Basically, it was like, all right, so I got to make this work. And that's where I just go back to, you got to know the human body, and you got to know how to be creative, and you got to know how to pivot.
Of course, that might help if they've already failed first, because then you walk in and say, hey, you failed the last time. We got 4 weeks. Maybe they're more, more receptive to.
Well, if the peptides being a big thing right now, were anabolics a big thing?
I didn't use anabolics when I was doing my transformations because I didn't have enough trust in doing that to someone. Because if you think about it, let's just say I worked with an actor and wanted to put someone on anabolics. Let's just say something went wrong. Now you're on the hook. Mm-hmm. And then that's going to be what you become known for, and your career is done.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So when people see the J.K. Simmons transformation, I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Yeah.
But that went viral in 2016 and then again in 2018. And everyone swears I had him on everything you can think of. And I'm like, I couldn't even get him to take a multivitamin. But he ate very clean. So
how did that start?
JK?
Yeah.
Well, he started doing a lot of cardio back in LA with this, I forgot what kind of training this lady does, but it's like this kind of cardio aerobics type stuff. And once he was ready to lock in, that's when he reached out to me and said, hey, I need to really kind of shape up here. So we started training about 4 times a week, and his body was very beat up. Like he had a lot of injuries over the years, and it was like every time I tried to do something, it was like the wrist hurt, the elbow hurt, the knee hurt, the back hurt, something pinching. Oddly enough, I had him do intermittent fasting because it was something that I wanted to try based on his schedule. And when I had him do it, one, it worked for his schedule best for eating, so he was able to be adherent to it. But 2, in doing the intermittent fasting, a lot of these aches and pains he had actually started to dissipate. So the things we were having trouble doing before, he was actually starting to be able to do them better. So we found like this magic recipe for him that he can follow even outside of training with me now, because we ran it and it worked and he liked it. So whenever he does get out of shape, goes on vacation with his family, he knows what to jump back into. Mm-hmm. But that transformation that we did with him actually opened up a lot of doors. for roles that he wouldn't have normally gotten cast for. You know, the Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt, the movie Red One that he just did with Rock, where he's getting these muscled up roles now from people seeing him in a way that they've never seen him before. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was one of the better transformations I've ever done.
How long was that one?
That was I want to say we ran that for about 2 months. Yeah, 2 months, and we got it dialed in good. That picture is deceiving though, because he's got the arm blaster on, so it's like pushing his arms out.
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of other shit that goes into this stuff.
Yeah,
lighting and positioning and all kinds of shit. So, question that just came to my head about 5 minutes ago is, how do you do your food prep when you're living in a car?
So there was a fridge at the gym. And it was kind of one of those things where I would meal prep as much as I could at one time. And I would keep it at, a friend's house, or I would keep some at the fridge in the gym, try and do as much as I can. I had a lot of people that really, I don't want to say a lot. There was a handful of people who kind of knew my situation and wanted to help. So those were the people who were kind of in my corner helping me tackle the whole prep for the competition. It was hard. It was very, very difficult.
Well, you didn't know any different either.
I don't think I would have been able to make it through if I didn't have something to work towards, because I would have felt like I was spinning out of control.
Yeah. With your training with that, so when that's over, then you start doing the celebrity training from that whole. Because you just notice something that's super important when it comes to training is, what are you training for? So after that show and while you're doing the celebrity training and all that, what were you training for? What was that anchor then?
Well, I stopped. My last competition ended up being in 2011, and I did the Greater Gulf States. I won the super heavy, and that's when I started really getting deep into film and TV. And that's when I had some producers and directors say, hey, if you want to have some longevity in this line of work, I highly recommend you
bring it down.
So you look more marketable. So it took me a couple of years to kind of get rid of the ego thing of constantly trying to be the biggest guy and the strongest guy. And it actually ended up working out. It just took a long time to wrap my mind around having a different physique. But in doing that, I got a lot more business out of it now, because people look at my physique and it's something they want to emulate my physique rather than a big bodybuilder, which not many people want to look like that.
So training wise, what did you have to do to create the downsize part?
I started doing a lot more volume, and then I brought my food down.
Well, yeah. I mean, that
was pretty, that's really all I did. And when I got to LA, what I realized was I almost became addicted to the gym in a way I feel like I wasn't ever before. Because I was even on the time that I should have been resting and doing recovery, sleeping, whatever, I just kept going back to the gym. And then on top of that, I wasn't eating enough, so that my body started to break down. But I was in such a place where I was really trying to figure out how to make everything work while I was in LA, because it was such a culture shock to me. And I was actually staying with a writer and producer, and it was just a weird setup there, just having a lot of these rock bands come over every night, and they were smoking weed and doing drugs, and I'm staying in their basement, and I'm like locking my door because I don't want to have anything to do with it. And they ended up kicking me out because they felt like I wasn't part of I didn't want to participate. Back to the restart again. I'm like, shit, I just moved here. So I had a friend I was staying with, and I felt like it was, again, back to the anchor piece in my mind. I had to be in the gym doing something. So I was living in Hollywood, West Hollywood, and I was driving all the way to Venice to train at Gold's every day, sometimes twice a day. So, that's like 4 hour, that's like 8 hours worth of training and driving. Yeah. So I was just consumed by it. But it kept my frame smaller, more lean.
Was there anything about being in Venice that was different than had you just trained 20 minutes from where you lived?
just the atmosphere and the people there. I got to know a lot of good people, and all the other gyms in LA, they're just so congested and full of people who aren't really there to train. They're there to take videos and selfies and just kind of go through the motions. I like being at Gold's because people were training there. I mean, not like
no. I get what you're saying, but I mean, because we're going back in time quite a bit, and the selfies and the videos, I guess, would have been, they started there. I mean, it was blowing up there before it blew up everywhere else. Yeah, like we see now. Yep. Which is insane. You know, when I travel and go to different places, like, oh God, it's different.
Well, that's what's cool about Matt's gym, is that I was talking about the culture he's created there. It's like, normally in a gym like that, I mean, there are people in there who are taking videos and doing selfies, but they're also in there training hard.
Well, they're doing it for a different reason.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, lifters will do it to be able to check their form and technique and stuff. And then afterwards, maybe they blow one up to Instagram or stuff, but they're not doing it with the full intent of it to be a post. Yep. Which is weird when you watch it. There's a, God, what's that page called? Mike Van Wyck told me about it years ago. Influencers in the Wild. Funnier than shit. It's an Instagram. I don't even know if it's still around, but it was funnier than shit when I found it. And basically they find people that are creating their TikTok post or Instagram post, then they film them doing it. That's fun. Right? Because the thing that's always bothered me, like when you see people that are walking and talking, like with a selfie stick, doing whatever video they're doing. I've always wondered, like, what's that look like if I was watching this across the street? Like some walking down the street with, hey, what's going on today? Like talking to themselves on the fucking, with a selfie stick. Think of how, and this is what the site films, is that shit, which is just funnier and shit, because I'll see it when I'm out on vacation and stuff like that. Is that Influencers in the Wild?
That's hilarious.
Oh, it's funnier than hell. I forgot about it until just now.
Dave, do you think, kind of with your history and experience with powerlifting, I sometimes wonder if there's good to social media. The one downside, as I see, is it would take away some motivation, because I remember once I started powerlifting, because first I could go up to you guys like Louis and John Davies want to be this track guy. Well, we were gonna have this plan, and then it just morphed into like Louis like, no one cares that you run, just lift. Mm-hmm. But then I'm like, well, how do you do good? And then I think one of you guys showed me the Powerlifting USA, and I'm like, oh, I got to get on that list, which is so stupid. If no one ever read Powerlifting USA, it's just a sheet of paper basically with your name and the total, and you'd make the top 50 or top 100 or whatever.
Just move up.
So I would do one weight class per month, right? Mm-hmm. So you had to get, if you wanted to be on that list, you had to get a top 50 or top 100 total
100, yeah,
in that time before that publication came out. So there was motivation, and now I notice people just have these, you get on the account. My daughter could make one, right? So the platform, you get the platform without the work. And I think to have a voice, and sometimes I think it actually hinders progress, because
it depends what they're training for, because some people are training just for that. Yeah. Like their outcome is the social media. So
and I don't say that negative.
Well, no, that's just what their choice is. Other ones, the ones that are more serious about competing, are kind of doing it the way that we're talking about. They'll film their sets to kind of reassess their technique, which that would have been helpful. Sure. Yeah, I mean, to be able to have that would have been helpful, because there was, once we moved from Demers to West Belt, the way the monolift was set up changed to where it was facing out. So you could have kind of spotted from the back, but you really couldn't. And that was probably a year and a half. And my shoulder is fucked up. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I had surgery and all this other kind of shit. And some strength coach came in, and we already been there for like a year and a half. And then asked Louis why I was squatting with the bar, 2 inches offset, right? And I'm like, the fuck you talking about? It shouldn't be, but it wasn't so easy to see as it was before when it was facing the wall. So it went completely missed from everybody. But my bar, when the guy took, whatever picture, because there was no phone, it was like fucking flip camera or whatever it was. It's like, what the fuck? Like, this is then you're like mad, like, you know, but all I was doing is because I couldn't get, you know, it was just, it felt right to me because it felt balanced. Where like a video would have fucking helped, you know, if somebody would have been filming this stuff, even from the front, you can fucking see it. And it's, meanwhile, I'm like, how did everybody fucking miss this? But when we went to fix it, we couldn't fix it anyhow. It was just them grabbing my arm and shoving it, you know, to get it in there, which hurt like a bitch.
When you were center, did you feel like the bar was like way off? No. Okay, so it felt normal.
It felt normal, but it was way off, you know, which explains why I tweaked my fucking groin and my back started getting jacked up. There's a lot of downstream things that kind of happened from that. Once it all started to make sense, it's like, fuck, how do we get it back? And that was basically them just grabbing and pushing my arm in, which hurt like a bitch. It's like an arm bar, but it stops hurting after a while. But anyhow, that's an extreme example of what we're talking about here. But it's, you know, so there's pros and cons. And now on the flip side of all that, there's a lot of strength athletes, and it's all of them, bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, that the only way they're going to be able to, like, I would bounce and work as a trainer to be able to pay for my sport. Right. I mean, that's kind of what everybody would do. And where now they can do online training, there's a lot of different ways they can pay for their sport. And for a lot of the people, that's all they're looking for, is to be able to pay for the sport. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. I'm not saying it's right nor wrong. Like, the client should know what the intentions are, because they're probably not going to be the best coach to be able to go with, but it is what it is. Right. And they have to build a platform to be able to do that. And in the strongman community, if they don't have a good enough platform, they may not get the invite. That's true. You know, to be able to go compete. So it's a weird world that they're in now, where they got to, even the online coaches are in the same sphere. Like, you have to build this online base to be able to pull the clients in. But I think the coaches don't understand that online base doesn't have to be what they think it is. Because
it's interesting. What do you think about the online coach? Because now again, they got this gym full of people, and some of them walk around and, you know, they don't even like go to the water fountain without texting their coach, right? Like, can I get a water? Yeah, they're very like, my coach said this. My coach said I shouldn't get married. My coach said, you know, like, but the strongest people to me are still the guys who come in. They got, you know, 4 to 5 guys in a group, and like, they're squatting this day and they're deadlifting this day. Those to me still seem to be the strongest. What do you think about that?
I think once you keep going down the path, and the biggest quality that's required to make progress, no matter how you're training, is your ability to auto-regulate your own training. So it doesn't matter how somebody gains that ability. You know, if that online coach can help them do that, so be it. But either way, that is where everybody who's serious about training should be striving to be, right? And you do this for 20 years, you're doing it without even knowing you're doing it. Right. It's like, that weight didn't feel right, I need to do another warm-up set. You know, so
I see pros and cons to both. Like, I remember first talking with Stan. I think I wrote this to you. I mean, I sat down with Stan, I had lunch, and he was asking me questions. I mean, he knew, and look, he's one of the best powerlifters ever, bodybuilders. He knew nothing about programming. He was asking me questions like, what's conjugate? What's 5-3-1? Like, nothing. And then but it hit me. I said, well, how did you train? He goes, I just go harder than last time. I just eat more and, you know, take more supplements. But I watched, so then I said, how did you set up your programming? And to your point about auto-regulating, he'd say, well, I'd hit a heavy squat. And I go, what would you next work? I go, well, I just wait like until I felt better. And I said, like, you know, because at the West Side, it's like you could walk in on a wheelchair and it's like, it's max effort. Get out of your wheelchair. You're doing good mornings. And I was like, you can do that? Like, I didn't even know, like, I thought it was a rule. So I think the one hand, I see the guys who have their program, and there's that benefit that you can kind of customize it. But then I see the benefits of the group, where maybe, you know, it's a trade-off. Like, when you get that group environment, people pushing you, watching your technique, kind of knowing how to help you, there's that value. But then you're also kind of subjugated to trying to mesh different strengths and weaknesses into one workout.
And we're getting everybody there at the same time too. Which can be problematic with different schedules and all that. The other big difference I see, if I'm going with the people that I would consider the better online coaches, their intake process is way better than most personal trainers or in-person coaches. And it has to be,
Yeah.
right? Because you're never going to see the person, right? Where in person, it doesn't have to be. You can read nonverbals. You can do all this other stuff. The red flag is when it's not. But I still have this belief that the online coaches are just fucked anyhow because AI is going to replace them.
Yeah.
It already can if somebody knows how to prompt things properly.
Yeah.
So they got to figure out how to have some personal connection quick.
Yeah.
Or the other side is, most people still don't know how to use Google. So who knows? Who knows how that's going to kind of all play out. Were there any things you wanted to talk about I didn't bring up?
No, you covered pretty much everything. Yeah, it was really good to get on here and talk about this, and I appreciate the way you asked some of these questions, because I got into talking about some things that I haven't really talked about in the way you've asked them. So this has been great. Anything that I didn't bring up that other people have never brought up? No, really, my being here in Cincinnati and doing this podcast is really revolving around what I'm trying to accomplish with Matt and John, and just becoming the student again. I've been doing everything solo for so long, specifically with training. So getting into his gym with him, being around, like he said, the crew, definitely gives you more juice. Well, it lights a little fire too. Because there is the reality for all of us. We've been doing this shit for a long time. Let's not lie and say that every time we walk in the gym, we want to be there. Oh, there's most of my week training days, like the heavy days on the weekend, I like that. It's like, fuck. It's like every morning I don't want to do it, and you just go. But when there's new ideas, methodologies, it lights that a little bit. Yeah. And it's like, I want to try this. Mm-hmm. And then that makes that grind a little easier, because you do this long enough, it's a fucking grind. It's not like when you were young, and you're looking forward to the next training session. Yeah. As soon as that training session's over, it's just on your mind all the time. It's different. Well, and also too, one thing I have to take into account is I never know when I'm going to have to do stunt work, when I'm going to have to take my shirt off for a photo shoot. Like a couple weeks ago, I just was down in San Antonio. I had to do a Murph. So it's like I'm just like, I'm in and this is why I want to be more well-rounded. And then, like you just said, having these new exercises and kind of having that new full head of steam. Like, I look forward to going back home and implementing some of this stuff and fixing some of the issues I have. That way, when I come back out, we do, part 2 of this, I'm in a much better place that I can actually start focusing on building strength and getting bigger, which was the goal of coming here. But he exposed so many weak areas on me. I'm like, well, I need to fix that before I even think about trying to do all this size stuff. It kind of sucks when that happens though too. It's exciting, but at the same time, it kind of sucks. Yeah. But at the same time, it feels good when you can open those areas up and you're like, man, I've wanted to open my hips up like that, or like the ATP is just such an amazing machine. I freaking love it. I love the sled. So many new things in my toolbox right now from this trip that I can probably, that I know I can help other clients with too. But just being able to come back out, being more bulletproof is going to be fun. Like it'll be more fun than this trip was. Yeah. How can people find you? Best way is Instagram, Aaron V. Williamson, or my website, aaronwilliamson.net. You can send me a message on there as well. All right. I want to thank you guys for coming out. This has been great. Any final thoughts? If you haven't watched the West Side documentary, I highly recommend you watch it, because it's an eye-opener in terms of what fitness can mean to people and fitness. Here's I say fitness because it can be more on the Goggins side of running. It can be more on the powerlifting side, bodybuilding side. You guys just take it to a whole different level in terms of the
one of those fitness. Like
I will die. I'm going to die in here. And people, a lot of people I talk to, or I guess let's just say normal people, because we're not fucking normal by any means, can't wrap their head around why the gym means as much. But I think too, when you've had a fucked up life or you've been through a lot of shit, most people who are addicted to the gym or this is their life have went through some type of trauma or some type of shit. And this becomes like literally your foundation for life right here.
Yeah. Cause you can control. You can always control.
Yeah.
Right. So all the other things you can't, but there's a certain degree of control with that. So those are great thoughts.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys, and we're done.
It's awesome. Thanks.
All content you see on this channel and at EliteFTS.com is created by, take a guess, Elite FTS. If you want to help support the content, head over to EliteFTS.com and pick up literally anything that you need to be able to get more jacked and strong.